The hallways of Westwood High buzzed with the usual chaos of students rushing to class, laughter echoing off the lockers, and the faint hum of teenage drama. At the center of it all was Emily Carter, the undisputed queen bee of the senior class. With her perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, and a confidence that could light up a room, Emily was the kind of girl everyone wanted to be or be friends with. She ruled the school with her sharp wit and a loyal squad of friends who hung on her every word. But today, Emily's attention wasn't on her usual gossip or weekend plans. It was on the new girl, Lila Martinez, who had just transferred to Westwood. Lila was different. She wore thrift store clothes, carried a sketchbook everywhere, and had a quiet, almost shy demeanor that made her an easy target. As Lila nervously adjusted her glasses and tried to blend into the background, Emily spotted her. "Hey Picasso," Emily called out, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you paint that outfit yourself? Because it looks unique." Her friends erupted into laughter, their voices echoing down the hallway. Lila froze, her cheeks turning bright red, but she didn't say a word. She just clutched her sketchbook tighter and looked down at her shoes, hoping the moment would pass. Emily smirked, satisfied with the reaction. But little did she know, this moment would be the start of a journey that would change her life forever. Emily's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Behind her confident smile and designer wardrobe was a girl constantly seeking validation. Her parents were rarely home, too busy with their high-powered careers to notice her achievements or her struggles. The only time she felt seen was when she was the center of attention at school, but lately, even that wasn't enough. Her friends' laughter felt hollow, and the compliments felt empty. Deep down, Emily knew she was using her popularity as a shield to hide her insecurities. When Lila arrived, Emily saw an easy target. Lila's quiet demeanor and quirky style made her stand out, and Emily couldn't resist the urge to tear her down. It wasn't just about making her friends laugh, it was about feeling powerful, even if only for a moment. Lila had always been different. She loved art, spending hours sketching in her notebook, creating worlds where she felt safe and understood. But her passion made her an outsider. At her old school, she'd been bullied for being weird, and she'd hoped Westwood High would be a fresh start. Instead, it was more of the same. Emily's cruel comments stung, but Lila had learned to hide her pain. She didn't fight back because she knew it would only make things worse. Instead, she poured her emotions into her art, creating beautiful drawings that told stories she couldn't put into words. Lila's kindness was her strength. Even when Emily mocked her, Lila never lashed out. She believed everyone had a story, even the people who hurt her, but there was only so much she could take. One day, during a class presentation, Emily saw her chance to humiliate Lila in front of everyone. Lila had been nervously preparing for weeks, her project on display, a series of stunning charcoal portraits that captured raw human emotion. As Lila began her presentation, Emily interrupted with a loud whisper to her friends. "Wow, did she draw these in the dark? They're so depressing." The class erupted into laughter, and Lila froze, her hands trembling as she clutched her notes. The teacher tried to quiet the room, but the damage was done. Lila's voice wavered as she finished her presentation, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Emily smirked, but for the first time, she felt a flicker of unease. After class, Lila approached Emily in the hallway. Instead of yelling or crying, she spoke in a calm, steady voice. "You know, Emily," she said, "I used to think people like you were just mean, but now I think you're just sad." Emily blinked, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. Lila held up one of her sketches, a portrait of Emily, but it wasn't the polished, popular girl everyone saw. It was a raw, emotional depiction of someone who looked lonely. "This is how I see you," Lila said softly. "I hope one day you see yourself too." Before Emily could respond, Lila walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway, stunned. For the first time, Emily felt the weight of her actions and the truth in Lila's words. The next day, Emily's world began to unravel. During a student council meeting, the advisor, Mrs. Thompson, announced that Emily's recent behavior had been reported by several students. "Leadership isn't just about popularity, Emily," Mrs. Thompson said sternly. It's about setting an example. Until you can demonstrate better judgment, I'm suspending you from your role as class president." Emily's stomach dropped. She tried to argue, but the disappointment in Mrs. Thompson's eyes silenced her. To her surprise, Lila broke the silence. "I was thinking we could do something with mixed media," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Maybe combine photography and sketches to tell a story." Emily blinked, caught off guard by Lila's professionalism. Sure," she mumbled. "That sounds cool." As they worked on the project, Emily couldn't help but notice how talented Lila was. Her sketches were breathtaking, and her ideas were creative and thoughtful. But what struck Emily the most was Lila's kindness. Despite everything, Lila treated her with respect, even offering to help when Emily struggled with her part of the project. "Here," Lila said one afternoon, handing Emily a pencil. "Try shading like this. It'll give the drawing more depth." Emily hesitated, then took the pencil. As she followed Lila's instructions, she felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't worried about being perfect or impressing anyone. She was just creating. By the end of the week, Emily found herself looking forward to their project meetings. Lila's quiet confidence and genuine kindness were unlike anything she'd ever experienced. And for the first time, Emily began to wonder if she'd been wrong about Lila and about herself. One evening, as Emily sat alone in her room, she couldn't stop thinking about Lila. The way Lila had treated her with kindness, despite everything, gnawed at her. Emily picked up the sketch Lila had drawn of her, the one that showed her as lonely and vulnerable. She stared at it for a long time, her chest tightening with a mix of emotions she couldn't quite name. For the first time, Emily allowed herself to really see Lila, not as the weird new girl, but as someone with depth, talent, and a heart far bigger than her own. She thought about the times she'd mocked Lila, the laughter she'd provoked from her friends, and the pain she'd seen flash in Lila's eyes. "What is wrong with me?" Emily whispered to herself, her voice trembling. She realized she'd been so focused on staying on top that she'd lost sight of what really mattered. She'd hurt someone who didn't deserve it, someone who had shown her nothing but kindness. The guilt hit her like a tidal wave. Emily buried her face in her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. She thought about how her actions had not only hurt Lila, but also alienated her friends and damaged her own reputation. She'd been so desperate to feel powerful that she'd become the kind of person she'd always claimed to hate. "I have to fix this," Emily said aloud, her voice firm despite the tears. But how? How could she possibly make up for the pain she'd caused? As she sat there, clutching Lila's sketch, Emily made a decision. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do, but she knew one thing for sure: she couldn't keep living this way. It was time to change, not just for Lila, but for herself. The next day, Emily walked into art class with a knot in her stomach. She had spent the entire night rehearsing what she wanted to say, but now that the moment was here, her confidence wavered. She took a deep breath and approached Lila, who was quietly organizing her supplies. "Lila," Emily began, her voice trembling slightly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" Lila looked up, her expression calm but curious. "Sure," she said, setting down her pencil. Emily swallowed hard. I owe you an apology, a real one. I've been awful to you, and there's no excuse for it. I was so caught up in being popular and making people laugh that I didn't stop to think about how my words were hurting you. But I see it now, and I'm so sorry." The room fell silent as the other students turned to watch. Emily didn't care. She needed Lila to know she meant every word. Lila studied Emily for a moment, her eyes soft but thoughtful. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. "Thank you for saying that," she said. "It takes a lot of courage to apologize, and I really appreciate it." Emily blinked, stunned. "You're not mad." Lila shook her head. "I was hurt, but I don't believe in holding on to anger. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is what you do after." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. Lila's forgiveness was more than she deserved, and it only made her more determined to change. As they continued working on their project, Emily found herself opening up to Lila in ways she never had with anyone else. She learned about Lila's love for art, her dreams of becoming an illustrator, and the challenges she'd faced moving to a new school. In turn, Emily shared her own struggles, her insecurities, her strained relationship with her parents, and the pressure she felt to be perfect. For the first time, Emily felt seen for who she really was, not just the persona she'd created. And for the first time, she began to see Lila not as different, but as someone truly special. In the weeks that followed, Emily made it her mission to make amends. She started a kindness campaign at school, using her influence to promote acceptance and inclusivity. She even stood up to a group of students who were teasing a freshman, something she never would have done before. Lila's quiet strength and compassion had inspired her to be better, and Emily was determined to pay it forward. She wasn't perfect, but she was trying, and that was enough. The story of Emily and Lila is a reminder that kindness and empathy can transform lives. Emily's journey from bully to advocate shows that it's never too late to change, while Lila's strength and forgiveness highlight the power of compassion. Together, they prove that celebrating differences and lifting others up can create a ripple effect of positivity. Emily and Lila sit side by side in art class, working on a new project, a mural that celebrates diversity and acceptance. As they laugh and share ideas, it's clear that their friendship has become a symbol of growth, forgiveness, and the power of change. True strength lies in kindness, and everyone deserves a second chance.